For decades, Robert Redford was one of the most famous faces world. Star of Hollywood, leading man and emblem of peaceful assurance. But behind another life existed outside the public image running quietly beside it. One that rarely hit headlines. Come along as we discover Robert Redford's double life, why it lasted 30 years long buried. Childhood under the weight of quiet. Robert Redford's childhood was marked by quiet struggle than ease or comfort. He was born August 18, 1936, Santa Monica working-class family in California, maintaining stability in a country recuperating from the Great Depression. Money was scarce, but the households were stable. His dad, accountant Charles Redford for Standard Oil, believed in accountability, routine, and stamina that he rarely spoke about feelings. His job was to provide that he was consistent and disciplined. Mother Martha Redford Hart had a distinct role. She was kind and emotional present. A home where feelings were infrequently uttered. She became the tranquil family center together. Her son was encouraged, gave him confidence and recognition. From the start, she sensed Robert's was not designed for daily living. That he retained his belief. Childhood. Being a boy, Robert often felt distinct from others. He was more introspective, more comfortable watching than talking. Not interested in school. Sitting still following strict guidelines and memorizing facts was awkward. He slipped through classes thought. But when he took a pencil, something entered, a field changed. That contrast characterized him. Early, uninterested in routine, entirely alive while passionate. Art and athletics were his getaways. Drawing let him express himself. Feelings he could not name. Baseball and tennis let him unleash emotion and energy without words. These were his locations. Felt liberated. Even as children, patterns began to form. Robert cared greatly about something. He gave everything. He left when he didn't. Completely. The intensity would follow. His lifetime. His youth safety was first broken. 1945. Robert was 8 when Uncle David Redford died in the World War I's Battle of the Bulge. David was more than kin. To Robert was strong, boldness, potential. The man was smart, athletic, multilingual languages, and family admired. His death was sudden and unexpected. Warning. First, Robert was faced with the concept that strong, permanently disappearing humans. Death no longer distant or abstract. It immediately entered his life. In his mind, David symbolized valor and masculinity and vulnerability. The loss sparked early recognition that life could terminate without justification. Bravery didn't protect against fate. A few years later, another scary event followed. At the 11, Robert woke up one morning immobile. Body felt heavy, weak eyelids. Doctors diagnosed him with polio, which worried families across America pre-vaccine. He was bedridden for 2 weeks, cannot run, draw, or move freely. For a hyperactive child, the silence was agonizing. He listened, unsure of his breathing. Body would heal totally. Though he restored his strength, experience was profound. He learned independence could be stolen immediately away. After that, he carried a silent anxiety of bodily fragility later fueled his need to keep working, moving, creating. Most heartbreaking loss in 1955 when Robert was 18. Martha, his mother, died at 40 due to problems birth years earlier. Her death broke him. He had her. One individual who anchors emotions openly supported his potential. Without her, he lost comfort and direction. However, grief wasn't freely discussed in Redford's home. His Irish-Scottish heritage, emotions remained secret. His dad did not cry. No relatives spoke. About loss. Pain was silent. Robert realized suffering was anything to carry alone. And from that quiet urge to leave, rebel, he slowly redefined himself. Grow. Rebellion as survival. At the time in his teens, Robert Redford, he was carrying a lot for years. He has faced terror before, illness and major loss. But in a family where individuals kept quiet about emotions, there wasn't much room to process anything. Instead of sitting grieving or confused, he pushed forward. For Redford, rebellion wasn't simply temporary. Staying and became possible. Move to prevent pain. Van New York High School, Los Angeles. Redford was no superstar. Student. He wasn't concerned. Grade, assignments, or classroom regulations. The school seemed like a place Toto remained still and followed directions. That was never easy for him. Hefton seems preoccupied, uninterested. Teachers noticed he had ability, but wasn't paying attention there. What stood out was his athletic ability. He was swift, strong, competitive. He played athletics. Attention and drive, especially baseball. On the field, he looked a focused person. Off the he appeared restless and hard on the field. To reach. That disparity counted. It showed he wasn't lazy or weak, that he didn't react normally. Success measurement systems. Defiance began during these years, the element of his identity. He didn't like being ordered. He pushed limits, challenged rules, sometimes pretended not to care concerning outcomes. For someone with already realized life may alter future didn't feel exciting overnight. Guaranteed. So he lived loudly in the present. One intriguing detail from his classmate, this time Natalie Wood, who became major Hollywood star and eventually joined him in flicks. They used toe teens at the same school environment. Still, a reminder that Redford's world was nearby. The entertainment business priory imagined a future. Redfordshire's baseball skills earned him something that seemed solid, a way forward. University of Scholarship Colorado. Numerous people surrounding him. It seemed like a turning point. Sports scholarships suggested discipline, career potential, and conventional success. It also chanced to leave home and start new place, fresh. There were expectations attached to scholarship. People likely thought he would study, train hard, establish stability. This was secure. Path. An athletic young man education, potentially got professional, or move into a reputable career. But stability only works when emotionally ready for it. Redford wasn't. The man was still dealing with sadness and tension. Instead of slowing down and building structure, he went the other way direction. In Boulder, the location, University of Colorado, Redford's life unraveled. Instead of baseball and studies led him to drink, partying, and risk-taking. Harassed vehicles and sought danger. These were serious blunders. Experiments. He made decisions that put risking his health and future. He drove 90 miles per hour at one point. His automobile flipped at mph. It was close to deadly crash. That kind of moment forces person to face reality. Everything may end in seconds. For Redford, not only a scary incident. It was he had strayed far. The consequences arose shortly. His wild lifestyle impacted him performance, discipline. Lost the scholarship that brought him there to begin with. Soon after, he was banished. Safe path collapsed completely. Shortly, he went from a promising scholarship athlete dropped out with nothing stable before him. This part of his story demonstrates something beyond immaturity. His personal damage wasn't random. It was emotional stress he hadn't dealt with. Inability to express pain is typically expressed through behavior. At 19, Redford hit a psychological low point. He lacked no scholarship, degree, or clarity direction. He probably felt embarrassment, both from public failure and disappointing people's expectations placed on him. He carried older grief. Death of his mother still fresh in mind his life. Now he had added more failure after loss. But there was another feeling. Freedom. Without scholarship, without strategy, without pressure to conform traditional life, he was abruptly stripped of everything. That freedom was terrifying yet true. He might plunge or choose something new. And he picked new. Redford left America. Travel to Europe. It wasn't cool, careful choice. It was more like Aquit the failing life. He sought a residence that might reconstruct himself without the student-athlete, in a way identity humiliation from expulsion. That choice, rejecting the predicted established everything that followed next. He then travels to Europe without clear strategy. There, things start changing unexpectedly. Exile, poverty. While Robert Redford left America following expulsion University of Colorado, he wasn't seeking consolation. Escape was his goal. A life that felt real collapsed around him. He was young, humiliated, and grieving from previous losses. There was no neat plan or goal. He just knew he had to leave pressure, expectations, and sense of failure. Europe, he could be there. Unknown, restart, and discover who when no one was watching. Redford arrived in Europe without a planned timeline or long-term aim. He wandered, moved through cities and countries unsure of what to do next. Drifting like that can look. He was careless, but used it to breathe. He was labeled at home. Fast athlete, troublemaker, dropout. He could be none of those in Europe. Things. He may be young. Rebuilding himself. Florence important halt. That wasn't random. He got there. Florence lived long. Painting/sculpture history formal art instruction. Always, Redford had drawn as a child. He carried that interest quietly during his teens years. Florence, he leaned in more seriously. He took art classes, formal learning method, and discipline over art hobby. This matters since it was one first chose a path based on his emotions, not appearance decent on paper. Baseball existed an approach to stability, but art felt like reality. In Florence, he started consider art a true direction, even if he didn't know its outcome. Redford visited after Florence, Paris. Paris was thrilling, but not simple. Having no consistent income, he didn't live romantically a foreign artist. He lived inexpensively, sometimes in uncomfortable rooms. His diet was whatever he could buy. Sometimes that meant starving or maximize meal length. He wasn't tourist. He survived. Paris had many cafes where artists worked, thinkers and writers gathered. Redford spent time there, taking in environment and seeing how inventive lived and chatted. But being nearby art did not obliterate him. Isolation. Sometimes he didn't friends. Not everyone welcomed him. A few days were probably lonely. Still, even loneliness differed. It wasn't related to family silence American hopes. It was simple. Part of independence. In this period his life was starkly different. On one hand, he handled material lack of funds, uncertainty, shelter, and survival issues. But he felt a kind of freedom new to him, and no one knew him. None expected him to accomplish something. He could spend time with art without criticism. He may exist as a human. Then apart. Important to realize this wasn't easy personal journey. It existed. Hardship. Yet difficulty can grow. Clarity. When life is reduced to necessities, food, housing, some work, you realize your priorities. Redford began to understand his needs. It was risky career. It was to express himself. During these years, painting became more than he liked it. A way to manage his silence loud. Redford had a background where emotions were ignored openly. He had learnt to endure grief. Interfere. Even in Europe, he didn't become a talker abruptly regarding emotions. He poured them instead. Visuals. He gained from painting. Express emotion without speaking. Unable to explain what they feel may yet be possible. Display through color, form, and detail-oriented. For Redford, art became a private space for him to cope with anger, guilt, and grief without naming them. This is also where his identity changed. He was known for years as a powerful, gifted athlete, physically gifted. Sports had also linked to pressure expectations. In Europe, he painted and lived among artists. Diverse version of him got more real, someone creative, drawn to expression and meaning. He wasn't just no longer escaping it. He was creating a new self. After several years abroad, Redford returned to America, with never had before purpose. Europe didn't improve his life. Clean way, but boosted his confidence that he survived on little. He lived. Despite discomfort. He had convinced himself he could continue without scholarship, safety, family safety structure, or career plan. Most importantly, he returned knowing wanted an artistic career. He didn't return thinking, I'll secure employment, settle down. He returned, ready. Dedicate yourself to creativity, even if risky. Choosing art over security wasn't a dream now. Felt necessary. That choice led to his next big move. Moving from painting to performing, finding a quiet spot. Intensity may become anything audiences felt. He then arrives in New York is his starting point, and making his life experience into talent on stage. Hollywood stardom, no illusions. An early Redford key film roles in Inside Daisy Clover. He played a young man trapped the Hollywood system, charming exterior but damaged within. The role let Redford display emotion vulnerability above loud drama. Viewers sense despair. His calmness hides confusion. He wasn't a traditional leader man. He appeared to be holding things in. The same year, he appeared This Property is Condemned opposite Natalie Wood. The film was about lost dreams and societal limitations. Redford's frail but romantic character, a situation-shaped person, lacked control. These early roles established patterns. Often, Redford played men who attractive yet hurt. Men who struggled quietly, fighting loudly. This set him apart. When many male stars relied only confidence and tenacity, Redford's breakthrough came when Hollywood used what he knew well. Film adaptation of Barefoot. Broadway success came from In the Park national audience. His stage presence performance had demonstrated his charisma and emotional control. On screen, those qualities reached millions. Young newlywed Paul Brader trying to balance love and duty. Redford was friendly and funny without losing depth. He didn't overplay emotions. Small responses, pauses, appearance had the most impact. The film was huge smash. Redford was suddenly nationally known. He wasn't just theater actor anymore. He was lucrative film star. Everything changed. 1969 with Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. Redford played skilled gunman. Sundance Kid spoke little, but acted decisively. Opposite Paul Newman, whose character Butch Cassidy spoke quickly. Playful. Their difference became the film's heart. Redford as Sundance Kid was faithful and quiet. Reserved. He needed few sentences. His presence alone mattered. This role internationalized Redford star, but defined a screen and image that would last. He was noted for his quietness. Subsurface strength. The film Western genre was also altered. Instead, it honored simple heroics, friendship, uncertainty, inevitable change. From then on, the name Sundance bonded with Redford himself, both publicly and later working behind the camera. After such huge success, Redford could held steady in similar roles that he declined. Jeremiah Johnson played a reclusive man's solitude in the forest. The slow, silent picture centered on survival, not action. Redford's performance emphasized silence and being there. His persona, he rarely spoke, but his solitude said everything. Nature wasn't just backdrop, shaped the story and a man inside. This role displayed Redford's willingness to remove glamour and embrace isolation. It reflected his understanding. Themes of isolation and self-reliance had followed him since boyhood. Redford picked this film that he didn't want to repeat himself. He desired roles that challenged. He probed inner turmoil, even if these were less commercially safe. That the same year, Redford starred political drama Candidate reflected a restless America. He played idealistic Bill McKay, drawn into a political system slowly changes him. The film questioned honesty, ambition, and compromise. Redford was grounded and credible. Sincere. Character wasn't played by him. Hero or evil. Instead, he demonstrated how excellent intentions can erode power. During war demonstrations, popular mistrust of leaders, film stung. Redford came connected to tales reflected morality and national concern. By the early 1970s, he was more than a film star. An actor whose selections reflected national discontent and whose calmness enabled sit with difficult questions audience. Next comes the time when his celebrity peaks. His roles grow darker, sharper, and riskier. Lost love, personal breakdown. Behind Redford's calmness on screen, a private life molded by deep attachment, frequent loss, and long emotional stress. While the public witnessed a confident celebrity rise, his personal life through Hollywood was often painful and unsteady. Love offered him grounding, but revealed he suffered unrecoverable losses. Before fame or wealth, 1958 security, Redford's suddenly emotional choice. Married Lola Van Young, Utah woman wagon. Despite family opposition was intense. They had little experience and were young money, but they trusted each other. They hoped to in the future build. Not a glamorous marriage, built on shared struggle and trust, not ease. During those early on, they lived simply. Redford worked odd jobs to establish oneself as actor. Lola backed him quietly, maintaining the home and parenting their kids while he chased opportunity uncertainty. These years characterized by poverty and ambition, they shared survival. While Redford was artistically driven. Aims, Lola stabilized emotions and patience. She trusted him even. When success seemed unlikely. Tragedy hit the young couple. 1959. Their Scott, the first son, died suddenly at abrupt infant death at 10-week syndrome. Losing was traumatic for Redford. This became one of the deepest his life wounded. Later, he admitted that whether he could have done differently stayed forever with him. Grief over death. A child lasts. I establish's routine. Redford held that agony silently, as he had learned as a kid. Fame and success did not soften it. The loss of Scott caused remorse, helplessness that never ended him. That confirmed his view that life could change suddenly and love was always risky. After Redford and Lola continued after Scott's death to have 3 more kids. As Redford's career increased, so did stresses on family. Fame brought financial security, but also brought absence. Long filming days and continuous travel meant time apart home. Lola typically carried parenting while Redford worked. Their children grow up with father's enhanced reputation. This was not simple. One son, James Redford, diagnosed with severe liver disease young and required major medical care, including organ transplants. family lived with continuous anxiety regarding his health. Their daughter Shauna faced personal trauma from her partner's murder in the early 1980s. Another child, Amy, later became an actor directing. Every youngster struggled that tested family resiliency. Redford helped out that the emotional toll was high. Managing celebrity, job, and family responsibility increased difficult. After 27 years in marriage, Lola and Redford divorced in 1985. On surface, separation was respectful and mutual. In breaking point, actually, years apart, emotional weariness, varied paths had taken toll. The surviving marriage poverty and early loss have to end at the lengthy struggle of fame and separation. Redford withdrew after divorce. Emotionally, he struggled. Loneliness and sadness. He lived alone. Lengthy times, neglecting his health. He tried to reach Lola by letter. They regret and long, but were unanswered. Despite ending their marriage, Redford continued respectfully mention Lola. Hefton called her the greatest supporting his life and acknowledged that his career may never succeed without her. Happened. Divorce did not bring freedom. An empty feeling followed. Someone who always suffered quietly. Death of his best friend, emotional anchor, exposed him and unsteady. In subsequent years, Redford entered several romances relationships. These links were intense but brief. They were passionate, emotional, and inevitable separation. Not one offered sustained steadiness. He lost. Rather, instead of addressing emotional gaps, relationships often accentuated it. What Redford appeared to be looking for there was no excitement or escape, but balance. He desired no pressure relationship, comprehending without doing. But finding that took time. These years were learning to live alone, how to grieve without closing, how to stay open to love without losing himself. After years' heartbreak, solitary, calmer chapter begins and alters his lifestyle and affection. The last performance. Robert Redford moved things into his later years. Obvious change in his approaching job. He appeared to no longer eager to prove anything. He wasn't after fame or honors publicity. Instead, he leaned into honesty. Growing old was no longer anything to hide or battle, and it became something to accept, observe, and use carefully. In his later roles. Redford's last film performance with The Old Man and Rifle. And he played an elderly banker in this film. Courteous, calm Robert, inexplicably happy as he commits late-life crimes. Character isn't motivated by greed or fury. He just appreciates his work. Role felt like a peaceful goodbye. Redford's character lovely yet aged. His body moves gently. His energy is low. Film doesn't disguise these. It builds around them. The no longer evading justice, youthful confidence. He moves through life at his own pace. Conscious time is short. Following The Old Man and the Gun, Redford retired. From acting. A calm choice was made. Clear. He didn't recommend burnout. Frustration. He felt done. Acting gave him decades of expression, challenge, and growth. There was no need to continue for tension. Retirement allowed him return to old ways, grounded him. Nature, solitude, and secretive labor. He spent time at his Utah ranch, away from Hollywood. The speed dropped. Day became simpler. This quieting echoed values he had long examined screen. For Redford, leaving was not a sad ending. It was completion. He stated his desires. To say, if you like the story, like video and subscribe for more depth explores famous Hollywood figures.